Here we are. We are recording. I'm going to make myself big speaker view. Okay, here we go. Awesome. Okay, so you are going to begin seated on your mat in a comfortable way. And I'm just going to explain a couple terms that I am going to refer to over and over again. And so, better to kind of introduce them while you're seated and not lying down and not looking at the camera maybe. So you can see, and you may experience this in your spine, that when you sit, your spine has natural curvatures to it, right? So we have a little curve, like a hollowing through the low back or the lumbar spine. And then it curves the other direction through the thoracic spine or our mid-back. And then our neck follows that same inward or concave curve that the low back does. And so we call these curves neutral spine or an anatomical spine, but I'm going to refer to it as neutral spine. And that just means, neutral spine means that you're allowing for these curvatures to occur in your back, right? We do not want to round our back, right? That diminishes the lumbar curve and it goes away. We don't want to do that, right? We want to have a lumbar curve. And so as soon as we kind of collapse through the back, that is equal to destabilizing the low back here, right? So I just want you to be aware of that nice little lumbar curve, right? And you'll notice that different positions are going to change how you feel that lumbar curve. So with that in mind, we're going to lie down on our back and we're going to kind of talk about neutral spine and why we want to keep it and how we can start to keep it. Okay, so you're going to lie down on your back with your knees bent and your feet flat on your mat. And you're just going to notice what maybe happened to your spine. A very natural thing to do as we lay down is to let our low back kind of fall into the mat and round, right? So we've lost our lumbar curve most likely. What I want you to do is kind of rock your tailbone down towards your mat, make a lumbar curve through your low back on purpose, like maybe more than you think you should, right? Maybe it even pops your ribs kind of away from the floor. That's okay. Just feel how that feels. And then let your low back round into the mat again, or relax it back down, right? You're going to inhale and arch your back away from the mat, drive your tailbone down into the floor, and then let your low back fall into the mat. Do that a couple more times. You're rocking towards your tailbone, like your whole torso is sliding towards your feet. And then you're going to relax and low back falls into the mat. One more time, just like that. Rock your tailbone towards your heels. Make a big lumbar curve or low back curve away from the floor. And then relax and your low back falls down into the floor. We're going to do the opposite now. You're going to scoop your tail under and very purposefully press your low back into the mat. Tuck your tail under and then untuck or relax. Do the same thing again. Rock towards your mid-back, round your low back into your mat, and then untuck, right? We're just exploring like how far the low back can move in each direction, because we're gonna put it in a place on purpose and we're gonna try to keep it in that place on purpose, right? Tuck under, round your low back into the mat, and then untuck. Do that one more time. Tuck under and untuck or relax. Right, so now feel where your low back is on the mat. Maybe it's resting in a slightly different place. That's always interesting and a little bit exciting, right? So you're going to take your fingertips now and you're going to just slip them underneath your low back a little bit. Your fingertips shouldn't be able to reach all the way under your low back, right? They should kind of get stopped maybe an inch or two in. but there's enough space to slide your fingertips that inch or two inward towards your spine. So what I want you to do now is we are going to exhale, tuck under on purpose, press your low back into your fingertips, and then inhale, untuck all the way past neutral through the arch in the low back, where you could actually slide all of your fingertips underneath the arch of your back and touch your fingertips together, right? And then exhale, tuck under, squish the fingertips, and inhale, untuck. Excessive, right? So we're going on either side of neutral. We're going extreme tuck and extreme untuck. Try that a couple more times. Exhale maybe to tuck under, and inhale maybe to untuck, right? And I say maybe because I really just want you to continue to breathe while you're moving. We often will hold our breath as we're doing something new and something challenging, so just don't hold your breath. But I don't care whether you're inhaling as you tuck under or exhaling. Doesn't matter right now. So now what I want you to do is try to find neither the extreme tuck nor the extreme untuck. And just rest there for a moment. This is your neutral, right? Neither extreme tuck nor extreme untuck. So we're gonna work really hard to build some musculature around this idea of a neutral spine. And so we'll keep coming back to that idea of neutral. But we're going to challenge our core now to hold that neutral spine. So take your fingertips out from underneath your low back and bring them around to your rib cage, like you've got fingertips on the front of your rib cage and thumb towards the back of your rib cage. And I want you to breathe not just into the chest, nor just into the belly, but I want you to breathe out into your hands, right? So like your ribs are expanding towards the side seams of your shirt. You're gonna inhale and see if you can get some lateral expansion. Expand out to the sides. And then exhale, contract away from the sides. And again, inhale, expand out into your hands, out to the sides. And exhale, contract away from the hands, ribs pull in towards the center. You can even help that direction by pressing your hands into your rib cage. And again, you're gonna inhale, expand out into the hands. And exhale, contract and pull away from the hands, or push your hands into your rib cage to help the rib cage contract, right? So it's kind of like an accordion, opens out to the side and then closes back in. Your rib cage is doing the same thing. Inhale, open, and exhale, close. Move your hands down your body towards your waist, and I want you to feel the same thing here, that you expand out to the sides, a little bit up into your fingertips and a little bit into your thumbs. Inhale, expand. And exhale, contract. Do it again. You're looking for this kind of more three-dimensional expansion as we travel lower down into the belly, right? That like there's a balloon inside of your belly or inside of your abdomen that's inhaling or expanding as you inhale, and it's expanding three-dimensionally. And then it's contracting as you exhale, and it's contracting three-dimensionally, right? So we're taking that nice lateral expansion of your rib cage and traveling down the body to make a three-dimensional expansion of your belly. And then exhale. Good. And so we're going to try to layer all of these ideas one on top of the other. We're going to keep taking the breath down the body and try to inhale and expand into your pelvis, right? Like you're filling up the bowl of your pelvis with air. So see how low you can get your inhale to travel, maybe all the way down to your pubic bone. And exhale, contract. Same idea. You can even take your hands and place them just above your pubic bone, between your hip bones, and see if that space is able to expand. And exhale, and see if that space is able to contract, right? It's okay if the answer is no. Totally fine. So we're going to take expanding the rib cage kind of up at the top, all the way down to expanding the low belly down at the pubic bone, right? So let your arms come down by your sides. Don't worry about whether you're able to do it or not. I just want you to think about that whole space is going to fill up with air as you inhale. And that whole space is going to deflate and contract as you exhale. Do that a couple more times. So we spend a lot of time focusing on our breath because our breath is the gateway to the core, right? If we don't have a solid foundation of breath, we're really not accessing our core to its fullest potential. So this is why we spend a fair amount of time on the breath. You're trying to keep your neutral spine as you inhale, inflate, and then exhale, deflate or contract. Do that one more time. Inhale, inflate. And then exhale, deflate. So we're going to layer movement on top of that. We're going to move the arms first, and then we'll start to move the legs, right? Legs are heavier, so it's harder to keep our core and our spine stable. So we'll start with the arms. You're going to inhale, expand, and you're going to lift both arms up to the ceiling. Exhale, contract, and lower both arms back down to the floor. Do that a few more times. Inhale, lift up. And exhale, lower down. 2 more. Inhale, lift. And exhale, lower. Last one. Inhale, lift. And exhale, lower. You're going to inhale, lift your arms and hold it here. Then you're going to exhale, reach the arms overhead. Try not to change your neutral spine. So try not to let your ribs pull away from the floor as you reach your arms overhead, and try not to let your low back round into the mat. Lift your arms back up with an inhale. You're going to go from here overhead 3 more times. Exhale, reach overhead. And inhale, lift the arms back up. And 1 more. Exhale, reach overhead. And inhale, lift back up. Excellent. You're going to lower your arms down by your sides. A little bit more challenging now as we begin to lift legs. We're just going to do 1 leg at a time. So you're going to prepare with an inhale. We're going to use our exhale to lift the leg, because an exhale helps you connect to your core, which is going to help you stabilize your spine, which will help your leg lift, right? So a lot of information, but just come with me here. You're going to take a deep inhale, no movement. Exhale, feel your belly contract, and bring your right leg to tabletop, which is a little 90-degree bend at the knee. The knee comes over the hip, and the foot is kind of in line with the knee. That's like a tabletop type leg. And then you're going to lower that leg back down. Hands on your belly is a really nice place to have them. Exhale, lift the left leg to tabletop. So we're going to alternate legs. Your breathing stays the same. You're exhaling to lift the leg into tabletop and inhaling to lower the leg back down to the floor. And hands on the belly is an interesting place to have them because, 1, you can feel your belly contract with your exhale, right? And then you can also feel what type of movement is happening in the pelvis as you transition from one leg to the other. Ideally, a great goal to have would be no movement in your pelvis as you lift one leg and lower it, and then no movement as you transition to lifting the other leg, right? So that's where we really call in the strength of the belly to keep the pelvis stable and to keep the lumbar spine and the low back in neutral. We call this lumbopelvic stability, right? But you don't need to remember that. So, right, the idea here is that our pelvis and our spine stay stable, and we use our exhale to make that happen. And then we move our legs as we're exhaling because it keeps our spine stable to exhale. So you're continuing to alternate legs back and forth, right? And we're just treating this movement like an exploration of like, what does my body like to do when I lift my legs, right? Because this all might be extremely new, and all of these concepts might be super new. And it's okay to feel confused, and it's okay to feel like it's a lot of information. Just try to grab onto one or two things and really ruminate on those one or two things, like what does lumbar or what does neutral spine mean? Or what does pelvic stability mean, right? Right now we're working on pelvic stability and maintaining a neutral spine. Right, so you're trying as best you can to connect your exhale to your leg movement and that feeling of stability in your spine. Awesome. So you're going to keep going with the legs. Hopefully you're still going, right? And if you're not going still, go back to it. It's okay to take breaks whenever you need. We're going to add the opposite arm lifting to the leg lifting, right? So I'm going to start lifting my right leg to tabletop with an exhale and lifting my left arm to the ceiling and then lowering both back down with the inhale. And I'm going to alternate sides every time, right? So it's like walking, where we're using opposite arm to leg. And exhale, bring arm and leg up. Inhale, lower arm and leg down. Exhale, arm and leg up. And inhale, lower back down. One more time on each side, right? Don't be attached to like doing it correctly or right in this moment. Just explore. Like, what does your body like to do? Where do you feel stable? Where do you feel not stable? We're gonna lift right leg to tabletop, left arm to the ceiling. And you're just gonna pause here and hold it. Then you're going to think about what would it feel like to exhale and try to lift the left leg and right arm up to the ceiling. 2 legs lifted is a lot harder than 1 leg lifted. So experiment. Be here with both arms and both legs lifted. And see what it feels like in your core. Can you feel your belly working a lot harder to keep your back in neutral? Right? You don't want to feel like you have to round your low back a lot into the mat, or that your ribs uncontrollably kind of arch away from the mat and you lose that connection in your core. Right? So we're trying to occupy this nice middle ground here. From here, I want you to take your right heel and tap your right heel towards the floor without losing your neutral spine, and then bring it back up. And that means that if your foot goes all the way down to the floor, but you lose neutral, then you've just gone too far. And you don't need to go that far to build strength, right? You want to stay neutral, lower the leg as far as it will go within neutral, and then lift the leg back up. Same thing on the other side. So you're alternating right to left, right? You're just exploring. And you're breathing. And I don't really care whether you're inhaling or exhaling as the leg goes down, but that you're having some sort of continuous breath, right? So some sort of inhale or exhale as you go down, and then the opposite breath as you bring the leg up. Let's do one more or one more on each side, whatever you need to do to make yourself even. And then we're going to add the opposite arm reaching back as the heel goes down. So my left heel is going to tap the floor. My right arm is going to reach overhead. And then both are gonna come back up, right, to my home base. This is like home base right here. And then right heel taps down, left arm reaches back, and then up. Good. And you're gonna continue alternating sides, just trying to maintain neutral spine, trying to maintain a breath pattern, like breathing wherever you feel like it's the most helpful. And you're just exploring, right? What is your limit? How far can your leg go down before you come out of neutral? How does it feel to move the legs and try to keep your spine neutral because your core is engaged? Last one, make sure you feel even. And then you're gonna lower arms and legs all the way down to your mat. Let your knees sway to the right and let your knees sway to the left. You can open your arms out to the side. You can even turn your head in the opposite direction that your knees are falling. And it'll give you a nice little twist all the way through your spine. Awesome. Maybe even pulling your knees into your chest feels good because sometimes it tends to feel like the low back does a lot of work when we do that stability stuff. The low back working is not a bad thing. So unless it's painful for you and you don't want to do it, right? Then you're always allowed to be like, nope, I'm gonna opt out of that. Totally fine. So from here, we're gonna set the feet down on the floor. So we worked a lot with how to keep neutral spine and how to keep that stable spine. Now, we're gonna try to move the spine around a little bit. We're gonna ask for some mobility through the spine. So two separate things, stability or mobility. We're going from stability to mobility right now. So what we wanna do here is bend your knees, have your feet flat on your mat. You're going to exhale and you're gonna tuck your tail. You're gonna round your low back into the mat. Your low back gets heavier into your mat, right? And then from there, you're gonna continue to tuck your tail. Scoop the hips under. Feel the bottom of your buns push into the top or the back of your thigh, the high back of your thigh, to lift your hips up to the ceiling into a bridge, right? And if you're familiar with yoga, in bridge in yoga, we tend to, or people tend to lift the ribs up like it's a prep for a back bend, right? But what we want to do in Pilates is draw the ribs down and try to lift the hips up so that we have more of this incline shape or diagonal line from the shoulder all the way up to the knee, rather than like an arced shape or a rainbow shape, right? So from here, from this long diagonal line, you're gonna roll your spine down from your throat, through your collarbone, through each rib, until you get all the way back down to the neutral spine where your low back is just a little bit arched away from the mat. And then from there, you're gonna do it again. You're gonna tuck under, you're gonna round your low back into the mat. You're gonna step down through your feet to begin to lift your hips up. Let your pelvis lead the way up and your ribs are trying to do almost the opposite. The ribs are trying to stay down while your hips lift up towards the ceiling. This keeps the work in your hamstrings and your glutes rather than in your back. And roll down through your throat, your collarbone, your sternum, each rib, all the way back down to the neutral spine where your tail untucks and you find a little space underneath the low back. Do that 2 more times for me. You're gonna exhale, tuck under, and you're gonna start to peel your hips up to the ceiling. Step your feet down into the floor. Keep lifting the hips. And then roll your spine all the way back down. Beautiful. You're gonna do it 1 more time. Tuck the tail under, peel the hips up to the ceiling. Keep the hips rising up as the ribs try to go down. And then you're gonna lower your spine all the way back down. Awesome job. You're gonna keep yourself here at the bottom. You're gonna find a nice neutral spine, so a little space underneath your low back. Little fingertips can slide under your low back but not touch each other. And we're gonna try to move the spine from the upper body rather than the lower body. So we're gonna mobilize the spine from the top rather than the bottom. So what I want you to do here is put your fingertips on your chin. And I want you to not lift your head off the floor, but just nod your chin towards your chest. Like you're gonna make double chins. And then let the chin rise away from the chest. You can also imagine there's like a pillow or a piece of paper underneath your head. And you're gonna tuck your chin and you're gonna slide the piece of paper or the pillow back towards the end of your mat. And then you're gonna untuck. So you're lengthening the back of your neck and slightly shortening the front of your neck, right? Same thing again. Fingertips on the chin help the chin to find the appropriate place. You're gonna exhale, tuck under, chin presses down. Fingertips help the chin press down, right? It makes your voice sound really weird. And then you're gonna lift your chin away from your chest. Do that 2 more times. Exhale, tuck the chin. And inhale, untuck. Last time, exhale, tuck the chin. And inhale, untuck. So this is the first part of the movement that we'll use to lift the upper body, just like rounding the low back into the mat was the first movement we used to lift the low body up, right? So take your fingertips away from your chin, but you're gonna imagine that they're still there. You're gonna tuck your chin under. Pause. Now, I'm gonna drop my ribs down to lift my head, neck, and chest. And I curl up to look at my belly button. My goal is to curl up to the tips of my shoulder blades or like mid-back area, which is tough, right? But as much as you can, really lift up and over, and then just lower yourself back down. Good. Find that your chin untucks at the bottom. Do the same thing again. Exhale, tuck your chin under, and then drop the mid-ribs down. So lift the head, neck, and chest. Good. And then lower yourself all the way back down. Do that 2 more times. Exhale, tuck the chin under, and then drop the mid-ribs down to curl the head, neck, and chest up and forward. And then lower all the way back down. 1 more time, tuck the chin under, drop the mid-ribs to curl the head, neck, and chest up and forward. Awesome, and then lower all the way back down. Great job. So you mobilized your upper spine by tucking your chin first and then dropping the middle of the back down to lift the head, neck, and chest. And we mobilized the low spine by tucking the tail under, pressing down into the feet to lift the hips up. So all of that equates to spinal mobility, where all of our, this is what we call the legs and tabletop, arms up to the ceiling. This is called dead bug. So in our dead bug position, we were moving our legs, moving our arms, but our spine was staying really stable. Right, so both of those things require your core to work, but in different ways, right? So hopefully you felt your core working in different ways. I am gonna have you turn onto your left side. You're gonna lie down on your left side with your left arm long underneath your left ear and your knees bent and in front of you, right? So, and I want you to look down at your knees and make sure that your knees are stacked and they're not kind of like not on top of each other, right? So knees stacked, feet stacked, and then most likely that means that your hips are also going to be stacked because your knees are stacked. But just check in with that to make sure. Hips are stacked and shoulders are stacked, right? So sometimes we have the tendency to kind of want to do that. That's, shoulders not stacked, just bring your shoulder forward. From here, we're going to try to take the right hand, top hand on your top waist, and feel that you have some mobility there, right? You can kind of like rock your hips up and down, like hiking your hips up and down, and there's a little bit of play that may happen in your back right there, right? Or maybe not. You might be really tight there, and it might feel difficult to move in that way. But we're going to try. So what I want you to do, you have your hand on your top waist. Now I want you to reach your hand underneath to your bottom waist, right? You're going to have to pick your bottom waist up to get your hand under there, and then just relax and squish your hand. So what I want you to do is rock your hips so that your right butt goes towards the end of your mat. Right butt is going towards the end of your mat that way. What I want you to feel is that pulls your bottom waist away from the floor, or it gets light on the floor. Yeah? There's a change. There's some sort of change that happens in the bottom waist when you rock your hips and make your top waist long, and then shorten the top waist, let the bottom waist drop into the floor. And then do that again. Rock the top waist long, reach your right butt towards the end of your mat. Bottom waist is pulled away from the floor because the top waist went long, and then rock. Good. Couple more times. Rock the top waist long, bottom waist away from the floor, and relax. And one more time, and you're going to leave that top waist long and bottom waist lifted away from the floor. So you're going to keep your heels together now, and we're going to move the knees apart from each other. So heels stay together, knee lifts up, top knee lifts up, right? And then you're going to lower it back down. You can keep your hand on your bottom waist, totally fine. I want you to make sure that your bottom waist is not moving around and not dropping down as you lift your top knee up. Right, so we're just asking our body to stabilize in a different way. This is lateral stability, which is a little bit different, right? Sideline stability is a little bit different than lying on our back. So I just want you to play with this idea of moving your leg, lifting your leg up, bottom waist stays nice and stable and long, top hip stays stacked on top of the bottom hip. Yeah. Couple more times here. Lift the top knee up, lower it back down, and lift it up, and lower it down. Good. Now you're going to reach your top leg long towards the end of your mat. That will pull your bottom waist away from the floor, maybe more than it was before. That's fine. What I want you to do now is keep your waists this long as you lift your top leg up, right? If you lift really high, you will have no choice but to drop the bottom waist. Don't lift that high. Keep your waist kind of your number one thing that you're thinking about as you lift that leg up, and you'll hit like a stopping point naturally, and then you'll lower back down. You're going to do the same thing again. You're going to lift the leg up, and you're going to lower the leg down. So we're back to that idea of spinal stability, right? We are asking for no movement from the spine while we ask the hip for a lot of movement, right? So this is kind of like our dead bug lying on the back. It requires a certain type of core work to keep the spine stable. And hopefully your butt is maybe burning a little bit, getting warm right on this top side, right? So when we stabilize the spine and mobilize the hip, that's when we get that top side butt to do a lot of work. Couple more times. And then you're going to lift and hold, and you're going to keep it here. You're going to try to keep your spine really super duper stable and bring the leg forward, right? And we're trying really hard not to round and collapse through the waist or the low back. We're trying to keep the integrity of the spine as we bring the leg forward, And then sweep the leg back. And same idea, right? And bring the leg forward. So it gives you a stopping point. It gives you a range of motion if you think about keeping your spine stable and bringing your leg only as far forward as you can keep your spine stable. And then the same thing in the back, only sweeping the leg back as far as you can keep the spine stable. Let's do that 2 more times. Kick that long leg forward and kick the long leg back. And if the long leg is troublesome for you, bend your leg. It's totally fine. Bring the bent leg forward and kick the bent leg back, because really we're trying to work with the hip area, right? So this lower leg part is only adding weight to the leg, but is fairly unimportant when we're working with the mechanics of the leg in this particular exercise. So go ahead and relax, take a break, let that wash through your brain, and flip over to the other side. So you're gonna lie down on your right side. Awesome. Just checking the time. You're gonna lie down on your right side. Arm is long underneath your head. Knees are bent. You're gonna check in with your knees and make sure that they're stacked one on top of the other. That usually means your hips are stacked. And then you're gonna make sure that your shoulders are stacked, right? We want to be sure that we're not lying down and going into kind of like a fetal position, right? We want a nice long neutral spine. You're looking forward. And then we're going to take the top hand on the top waist, and I want you to just kind of feel that the waist is short. Then I want you to rock your top hip towards the end of your mat, lengthening your top waist, right? And then you can slide your hand underneath your bottom waist, and there's a little space there. Now, lower the bottom waist down into your hand, and then rock the top hip towards the end of your mat to feel your bottom waist pull away from the floor. And do that a few more times, right? This is just the mobility of your waist and your hip. You might feel like one side is really different than the other, and that is very normal. Good, yeah, I always notice that one side of my body is this side for me, lying down on my right side, I feel way less mobile through my left side. And I know that that is a thing that lives in my body, and it's totally fine. I may be trying to correct it and fix it all the time, but it's there. It's just a part of my body, right? So you may discover these same things in your body. Or maybe you're far into your movement journey and you've kind of known these things about your body before, and maybe this just illustrates it in a slightly different way. So the next time your waist is long, I would love for you to leave your waist long. It does not get to shorten from here on out. We're going to try to maintain this spinal stability, and you're going to lift your top knee, keep the feet together. Don't let your bottom waist change, and then lower back down. Good. And you're going to continue. Just exploring this movement. Don't have any judgments about whether you feel like you're doing it well or right. There is no right or wrong. There's just exploring. And there's, figuring out where your body is and where you want your body to go. But that's all, right? There is no right or wrong movement. It's just on purpose or not on purpose. That's what I like to tell people, right? So if you're doing something on purpose, it's probably okay. We just start to get into trouble with all of the things that we don't do on purpose, right? That's when we tend to get hurt. So we're just trying to bring a little bit more purpose into all of our movement. So one more time, you're gonna lift your top knee up, maybe get a little burn through the hip, through the back of your glute area, and then lower it back down. I'm gonna have you straighten your leg all the way to the end of your mat. And like I said on the other side, that might pull your waist a little bit further away from the mat. That is okay. We're gonna try to keep it there. And you're gonna try to lift the leg up without moving the waist, right? So that gives you a height to lift to. If you lift beyond that height, you'll have to move the waist. You'll have no choice, right? And so you can feel where that edge is, and then lower that leg back down, and then try to go right up to that edge, right? Lift the leg up, lower the leg down. Couple more times, lift the leg up, lower the leg down, and it ends up being quite a lot of side hip work when we really are honest about keeping the waist super stable rather than trying to lift the leg really high, right? Couple more times. It's exciting. Go ahead and lift and hold. Now we're going to try to keep the waist as it is, keep the spine stable, and bring the leg forward without changing any of the things that we've built so far. And then slide the leg back. Same idea, right? You're really forced to not just use the side of your butt as the leg comes forward, but the front of your thigh. And then opposite when you go back, not just the side of your butt, but also the back of your butt, like the big butt muscle, right? And then bring the leg forward, just exploring this forwards and backwards movement. You can keep your hand underneath your bottom waist. You can put your hand on your top hip, right? Just to feel like what's going on. Am I swaying back and forth? Am I able to maintain a long waist? These are all questions you can ask yourself or not. Your brain might be imploding already, which is totally fine. Doing Pilates or doing anything that's kind of this like thoughtful movement is always a little bit of brain work too. Go ahead and bring that top knee back down and just take a moment to relax and let all of the things rest. Yeah, maybe your butt is feeling a little bit warm now. Hopefully it is. Okay, so spinal stability, awesome. We did it on our side. Now we're gonna go back to spinal mobility, but we're gonna do it on our belly. So we're just kind of like rolling in a circle here, addressing the front of the body, the sides of the body, and the back of the body, and how they participate in spinal stability or spinal mobility. So I'm gonna have you flip over onto your belly. You're gonna stack your hands underneath your forehead, like a stack of pancakes. And you're gonna lay your forehead right down on your hands so that your face isn't smashed into the floor, but you're able to look straight down. And sometimes when we get into this position, we like kind of prop ourselves up so that our shoulder blades are like squeezed together and our chest is lifted. You're gonna try not to do that. So maybe move your elbows a little bit further out so that your elbows and your hands are kind of in the same line with each other. But more than that, it's like open armpits, chest down and low. Some of that will be dependent on your shoulder mobility. So if you're like, I can't do that, that's okay. Right? It just means that your shoulders might be a little bit tight, which is fine and very normal for humans. So go ahead and let your head rest on your hands. Look straight down at your mat. And try to feel that your head is in line with your spine. Okay, so we are going to mobilize the spine from the top down, so from our head down. The first thing we're gonna do is float the forehead off of the hands, but not look up, right? So I always imagine there's a really heavy book on the back of my head, and I don't want the book to fall off when I lift my head, and then I'm gonna lower my head back down. The key or a trick that you can think about here is not actually moving your spine too much, just moving your head, right? So not moving your chest, I should say, but just moving your head. So float the forehead up, like you're gonna make a double chin, and then lower back down. Same thing again, float up, and lower back down. Keep going. You might feel that you're waking up all of these muscles along your spine down to your mid-back, right? And that is a true story. That is how we hold our head on top of our body. It's not just our neck doing the work, but it's actually a lot of muscles that go all the way down to the mid-back. And then lower the head back down. So we're trying to give our neck a little bit of help, right? We're not gonna leave the job of holding our heavy head only up to the neck. We're going to use all of our more powerful muscles that live along our spine on our back. So see if you're feeling that. And if you're not, don't worry about it. And lift up. Pause here with your head lifted. I want you to gently press down through your elbows. And then I want you to gently feel your belly button pull away from the mat, and feel your ribs also maybe pull away from the mat. So all of a sudden, we've asked the front of the body to help the back of the body do work, right? Kind of an odd concept. And lower the head back down. We're gonna do all of that again. So same idea, you're just gonna float your head off your hands, but this time you are also gonna press down through your elbows, and you're gonna press or pull up through your ribs and through your belly. So it's suddenly a much more full body situation than just the head lifting. And then lower back down. Do that 2 more times. Go ahead and press elbows gently down. Lift head gently up. And then lower back down. I'm sure you just heard my dog talking. 1 more time. You're gonna press elbows down. Float the head gently up. And then lower all the way back down. This time we're going to ask for a little bit more movement, but we're going to try not to lose any of the stuff that we already built. So you're going to take your hands out from underneath your head, and you're going to bring them around to under your shoulders. Your forearms are still down on the floor. So now your face is smashing into the floor uncomfortably, right? So we're going to quickly bring it off the floor. You're going to lift your head up. You're going to press your elbows gently down. And you're going to begin to peel your spine up. So now, all of a sudden, you're looking more towards the end of your mat rather than straight down at the floor. Your upper body has lifted. Your mid-back is working. Your elbows are pressing down into the floor. And then you're going to peel yourself all the way back down. Awesome. You're going to do the same thing again. Float the forehead and the nose off the floor. Feel those middle back muscles pick your head up. Draw your elbows down into the floor to begin to peel yourself up higher. And then you're gonna lower back down. Don't worry about going any specific height. I don't really care so much about that. But just that you're mobilizing more of your spine all of a sudden, right? Same thing again, a couple more times. Float the face up, lifting your heavy book on the back of your head. It has not come off of your head yet. You're gonna press your elbows down into your mat. You're gonna lift higher, and then maybe your book comes off the back of your head because you've lifted this high. And then you're gonna lower yourself back down. You're gonna do one more, same thing again. Float the forehead off the mat, float the nose off the mat. Elbows press down, belly button lifts up, ribs lift up. And you peel your upper body away from the floor. And then you're gonna lower yourself all the way back down. Go ahead and press yourself back to child's pose. Rounding your low back and just taking a nice little rest moment there. And then you're gonna come on up. And we're all finished. You did awesome. So that was just introducing some of the concepts of a stable spine versus a mobile spine and what our core needs to do to achieve and maintain both.